So in the last video, we made our frog game so that when we click our start button, our points total up in the top left resets to 0. Our fly continuously is falling from the sky. If it hits the ground, it starts back over. And if our frog eats it, it gives us a point and plays a chomp sound. In this video, we're going to be making some obstacles for our frog. We're going to have falling rocks, so that if the rock hits the frog, the game will end. So if we come in to our code, the first thing we're going to want to do is add in our rock sprite, because we need that. So we're going to come up, we're just going to search for a rock, and we get a rock right here. So we're going to add that in. Notice it's quite big, so we're going to shrink the size down. We're going to start with half that. We're going to say that's probably a pretty good size. It's about equivalent to our fly. They'll both do. So for our rock, we're going to want to be doing much of the same that we did for our dragonfly. We're going to want it starting at the top at a random X location, falling forever. When it hits the bottom, we want it to reset to the top and keep going. So we're going to model it very much like this. We're going to remember our Y value being 188, and we're going from negative 245 to 245. So we're going to come into our rock code, and we're going to start off as we always do with an event when we click our flag and start our game. So the first thing again we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set some locations. We want to set our Y value. We want to set our X value. The X value is going to be random again, so remember we're going to come to our operators, pick a random number, drag that into our X. We remember, if we look over at our dragonfly, the random number is between negative 245 and 245, so we're going to type those in here. Our Y value from the dragonfly, we're referencing that one, is 188 at the top. And there we go. So now when we click start, it picks a random location at the top. Notice it's not moving yet. That's because we haven't added any of that code. So we're going to come back and reference our dragonfly again and see, okay, next we're going to want our forever block to always check to see what's going on. Throw our forever block in there. And we're going to want to be changing Y by -5. And you know what? We're going to try to make this a lot simpler for us. Instead of having to re-find every single tab in this, we're going to simplify it. We're going to take this forever tab, we're just going to separate it from here in our dragonfly code for just a moment. And we're going to see what's going to be the same. We're going to want to always be changing Y by -5. We want it to be the same speed. We're going to want to be checking if it's at the bottom, and then we're going to want to reset it. The touching frog part we do not need. We're going to pull that out. We're going to grab this forever block, and we're going to copy it using Control C. Real quick, we're going to come over here, and we're going to click anywhere in the white space and Control V to paste. Notice our block is now here. We can get rid of this one and replace it with that. And now our rock will be able to fall. Now, before we forget, when you're copying code from another sprite, and always remember, if you click on any of these physical blocks in the code, it'll start running the program, so you might have to come up and click stop every once in a while to keep everything smooth. So you want to make sure when you're doing stuff like this, you put everything back. So remember, we had the if in the forever block, and the forever block was right there. Now we come back to our rock code, we can click start and see that the rock is falling until it hits the bottom, and then it just stops. So we got to figure out why. So the first thing we're going to want to do, make sure our code's right. We're changing Y by -5, it moved down the screen properly, and then when Y position is equal to -177, so it never came into here and reset everything. So let's come over here and see. We're in our rock tab. When it hits the bottom and stops, its Y position is only -172, so it never reached negative 177, and it stopped. So if we come back in here and we change this to negative 172, now when we run it, it'll hit the bottom of the screen, it'll hit its negative 172, and go back to the top. So that's one where you got to pay attention to the sprite that you're using. The dragonfly is just a little bit taller, so it was able to reach a lower point on our canvas. The rocks, being shorter, were only able to get to negative 172, so you got to pay attention to those values for specific sprites. So now that everything's working right here, we need to make something happen when it hits our frog, because right now it just goes right through. So we're going to stop our program, and we're going to want to use another if statement. We're sensing to see if it's touching. Again, use the touching. So for a rock, we want to see if the rock is touching a frog. And if it is, what are we going to want to do? It's going to be very similar to the dragonfly again. We're going to want to hide it so that it doesn't continue. Looks, hide. So it's hidden. If we come back, what do we do next with when a dragonfly is touching a frog? We play the sound chomp. So let's figure out what sound we want to use for a rock. Remember, we want to be in the rock code for when we grab a sound. There's a pop in here. We don't want a pop. We're going to choose a sound, and for this one, we are going to use a sound called bonk. Bonk. So if we come and add it into our code, we can now move over here, come down to the sound tab, and play sound until done, bonk. Check out our dragonfly code again. Over here we changed the points by 1. Now this is where you could get a little bit creative with your game. If you want to keep it going for longer or make different variations of it, you could do something like negative points or negative 5 points for getting hit by a rock. Then there's really no way to end the game. So for this, we want to end the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to control, because we want to control. We're going to see what we can find. We've got stop all. Notice at the bottom of the stop all button, there is no puzzle piece to add on. So it is stopping everything that's going on in our program. So now when we run, if we get hit by a rock, we get bonked, and the program stops. And the game would be over. You can no longer move left and right, and your points total is locked. We still get points for getting our flies, so now we just need to avoid the rocks and not get hit to end our game. So that'll be it for this video. We got our frog able to eat our flies, and now when a rock hits him, the game ends and everything stops. So in the next video, we're going to take a next step and make everything a little bit smoother and a little bit more professional.